Yeah.
And it's rolling, but you don't have to say anything. But basically, that's what I'll do, and then I'll ask you like your testimony, like kind of just shortened testimony, like we walk with Christ, and like when did you first accept, when did you get baptized, and like how that's like shaped you into how you are now, like with your ministry. Obviously, with Sherwood Concord for since January.
Yeah.
Since January, you can talk about that too, like a separate time. Like I'll ask you too, like since you said you've been serving since January, like how have you seen like your impact in ministry growth through all of that, and like how you feel like since you're here till December, like how do you feel like that's gonna grow and all that, and then basically like
I don't know if I'm here till December.
Well, or however long.
No, it could be 2 weeks.
It could be. That is true. But like whenever you leave, like how do you feel like you'll be? How do you feel like it's impacted you the most, being here and all that, you know? And then like we'll go into some other things, and then I'll ask you like the moment of truth. Is there a story that you feel like God has put on your heart to share to everybody else here today?
I see.
And then after that, it's just like little clips. Like we want to keep talking, great. If not, it's all good. Basically, the longer you want it to go, the longer we will go. But if you need to head out, if you don't want to talk too much, I mean, that's all good too. That's the best part about it.
The only thing is, you probably won't catch me watching it because I hate my voice. I hate hearing my voice.
Trust me, I do too. That's why I don't watch them.
Yeah.
That's why I choose y'all talking and not me.
I would hate editing for the pure fact that I have to like hear myself.
Trust me, when I did the introduction video of like, oh hey guys, this is what I want to do and all that. You know how bad that was hearing my voice?
Yeah.
It was bad. But no, basically that's all it is. And then I'll tag you and send it to you, and you can share it with your family, send it to your friends, like whatever you want to do with the post story. That is up to you. But it'll be on the Instagram, and it'll also be on the YouTube for the full thing if you want to share that with your family, your friends, whatever, your colleagues, whatever you want to do with that.
Yes.
So, you ready to go?
I'm ready.
I hope it picks it up. I don't know. Nobody's ever done it down that far, so I'm curious.
Yours is right there.
Well, because I haven't talked into it yet. I haven't talked to it yet.
I didn't know. You said hat works. I saw that.
Yeah. It's up there. So,
there we go.
Yeah, we're chilling. All right. I'll intro us in. We'll get rock and rolling. You ready?
Let's go.
All right. What's going on, guys? Welcome to the Everyday Witness, episode 8. Y'all weren't expecting 2 episodes in one day. I wasn't either, but it worked out. We got y'all's glimpse into the first of many amazing people that have been impacting my life up here in Knoxville. One of my also fellow men interns of the student ministry. We have the Andrew Doane here today. Andrew, appreciate you coming on, man.
Thanks for having me.
Nah, it's been a blessing. Andrew and I have gotten to know each other since the start of this summer. He's been a student ministry intern since January, I believe.
Yes.
And he's been up here. So, Andrew, why don't you kind of introduce yourself a little bit to everybody listening?
Yeah, I'm Andrew. I'm from here in Knoxville, Tennessee. Grew up in this church. Around middle school, I started coming and never really left. Found a home here. And then late in college, Justin calls me and asks if I'd like the opportunity to serve. And I said, absolutely. So been on staff since January, like you said, just as an intern, helping here and there, building relationships. Really, it doesn't feel like work, it's just relationship building and getting to help here and there.
That's awesome. Well, as you all know, obviously interns, we work together a lot. So we've had some pretty interesting encounters this year. What is there one encounter that you've been with me for that you feel like has been the most memorable, if you will? Since you've been around me probably more than anybody that's been on, besides Harper, it's been on this podcast so far.
Man, that's tough. I think driving in a van with you for like 6 hours.
Which time?
It's like just like the constant, like we had a DJ for 6 hours, and it wasn't like I think just the sheer fact that like I was, in a chill vibes mood, kind of tired, taking a nap back there, and I just wake up. It's just constant.
Was this Beach Week or was this Wild Week? I can't remember. Or was it both?
It could be both.
Because I remember Wild Week, it was just me and I think it was just me and Rhino for a bit.
Yeah.
And then you and Justin. Because then I remember, yeah, that's right. And then you hopped in with us and we picked up Andrew.
Also
We all
liked
picked up Austin.
who were you on the Redneck Olympic night? Who was your character?
Cletus.
Cletus. Also liked Cletus because you made Harper break character, and that was really enjoyable for me.
I'm pretty good at making people laugh. I will. That's the one non-humble thing I will say. People think I'm either really stupid or really funny. Either way, they laugh. So that's all that matters.
It's true.
But anywho, so as far as ministry goes, you kind of give them a little background as to your walk with faith when you accepted Christ and got baptized and all that.
Absolutely, yeah. Um, I said I'm from here, but I was really born and lived in Kingsport, Tennessee, until I was 7 years old. It's just 2 hours northeast from here, right? Yeah, 2 hours northeast from here.
Yeah.
And got saved in our little country church there. However, I'm a very you probably know this. I'm a very literal person,
Oh,
and when you give
absolutely.
me directions, I take them literally. So it's kind of ironic. It goes with my personality a little bit. My whole salvation story. I remember the Vacation Bible School where the director was like, "If you've never been on your knees and accepted Christ, do that tonight." I was like, "Okay, I've never done that." Probably zoned out for the previous 10 minutes before that, but I heard that and was like, "I've never done it, so let me do it." Um, so that wasn't my moment of salvation. However, that's when I would say God really started knocking on my heart, even as a young kid. That's when I started noticing and asking questions. Before that time, I probably was not doing that. And it was probably 6 months later when it was a Sunday night service. And our pastor scrapped his sermon. He had something planned, but one person shared their testimony, and it led to another person. It was like testimony and praises, and it led to another person, and it led to another person. And during that, I realized whatever I did 6 months ago, getting on my knees and repeating a prayer, wasn't the same experience that these testimonies that I'm hearing. I didn't share that same like salvation change in my heart. Um, so after that sermon, I was like, I'm missing something, and I want whatever they have. And it was a true relationship with Jesus, changing my direction and sinful ways of, I don't have a big story of I was headed down a path to prison or anything, but 7-year old not didn't care to obey his parents, the typical. But from that moment forward is when my relationship with Christ started, and immediately, probably the next week, I believe, was baptized and followed through with that because that's when my parents kind of got to share that experience with me, and they could tell I understood what I was doing at that point and was in full support. So I still get to see that pastor here and there when we go and visit family in Kingsport, and I think about that moment all the time, how it was just his faithfulness to disregard his sermon that he had prepared for probably that whole week and just followed the Holy Spirit kind of um, leading him to just say, I'm going to open the floor to any testimonies. And that's kind of what related to me. That's kind of what it took to get through to me, was not a sermon, but hearing stories of other people.
It's really cool to see how stories can kind of lead us into a walk with Christ, kind of a little bit.
Yeah. As you're doing now.
Hey, trust me, I know more than anybody now. It's been a blessing to do this. But so you said you went to a cowboy church. For those of
it was
small,
a
smaller church,
especially compared to this.
I mean, especially compared to this. Why don't you can you unpack how different it was coming from that smaller church? Because coming from that smaller church to this church, what were some the different? I wouldn't say differences, but what were some of the biggest things to you, change wise, that came through that?
Well, I would start off. I would start off and say the heart is the same, which is what kind of unites. It's interesting when you do mission trips overseas. No matter where you go, when you have a brother in Christ, you can relate on such a deeper level. So the heart is the same. Now practices may look different. So you had to be really intentional about finding a small group. You couldn't just say you couldn't just go to a Wednesday night class and automatically be in a group of 10 people. On a Wednesday night here, we have 100 students here, you have to be intentional about like finding some friends, finding some people you can relate to and get close to and spend time outside of the church building. That would be tougher. And then uh, worship is a little louder here. But once again, I mean, same heart, worship to the Lord. It's pleasing to the ear.
It's very true. It's very true. Trust me when I say Broadmoor and Concord, as alike as they may seem, are very different in certain ways. But like you said, the heart is still the same. One thing that I have not lost is the heart that both of these churches that I've served at the past 2 years and past 2 summers is their heart is the same. They want the same ideas.
Yeah,
If that makes any sense.
absolutely.
Yeah. Well, as far as everything goes, obviously, everybody's got a story. And regardless of testimony, the Lord puts a lot of different stories on our hearts to share. And after talking to you yesterday about reminding you about all this, you did say you did have a story on your mind that you wanted to share. So let's hear it.
Well, I just, you know, through the walk with Christ, obviously you don't have, there's ebbs and flows, right? Um, so, like I'd mentioned, saved at a young age, but as you go, you're really battled and tested through the fire. And for me, that was after my sophomore year of high school. It was right after a camp um, where I was really on fire to like share my faith with some of my friends when I got back, and I was about to have a great time at the beach with my best friend who I didn't believe had a relationship with Christ, and I was like, man, I know he's going through some things. I really want to finally point point him towards Christ rather than just being like a supportive friend. I want to turn that to a Christian gospel conversation, and that was my goal that week. Um, but coming back from that camp, I got the real unfortunate news. He committed suicide, and instantly that was a life changing moment for me. I realized, we all have a shortened amount of time than you realize, or you just don't know how much time you have around people, and you want to be intentional around those people anytime you can. And it's really given me a sense of urgency around people now, and just a deeper empathy for anyone I come across, especially with like mental health um, issues. But so you could unpack a load out of that story, but what I'll focus on is how it affected like my personal growth. Um, Definitely made me ask like tough questions, which we talked about the other day. Questions are a good thing. Um, so those really pushed me to grow, um, and I really for a while during that time felt like God wasn't listening to me. Like I said, I was really in prayer about having those gospel conversations. I was like, I didn't get that opportunity. God just felt like really far away. And I remember probably like a year later, I went to deliver flowers to the gravestone. First of all, I'm not even like a big like flowers guy. Like I think I've done this once. Like I've visited multiple times. But it was never like a big flowers guy. But for some reason, I was like, man, flowers just seems right this time. And I went to deliver flowers, and I was like probably in tears in the car, just like upset at God, really. Just asking like where he was. Didn't feel him. Couldn't feel close to him. And then it was a really windy day. So the details in this story are important. It was a really windy day. I was concerned. Like I'm just gonna buy these flowers and they're gonna blow away in like 2 minutes, and it's gonna be a waste. It's like my heart's there, but like these aren't gonna stick around. I'm gonna need.
Yeah.
So I'm pulling up and I'm like, well, I'm gonna walk around. Maybe I find a big stick, a log, some rocks. I don't have an extra vase with me. Maybe I can find something. I'm gonna like spend like 20 minutes probably walking around this place, finding a rock to I could like leave on these flowers so they could stick around a little bit longer. Um, but I pull up and I walk up to the gravestone, and right next to it is a random pile of rocks, just stacked up. I've been to this gravestone multiple times. They were never there before. I don't. think they've been there since. But I think about every time now, and I just broke down because I knew that was like kind of my prayer going into the situation was, man, it was a worry. It was like, man, I'm doing this and it's all going to go to waste. And it was something small, but the fact that I could keep those flowers there a little bit longer was really special. And I just knew in that moment, I felt God closer than I had like probably that entire year. Um, so right then, I broke down in prayer and I was like, okay, God, I feel you're close. I feel you're answering me. It's not the answers that I like always wanted. You may not be answering me in my time, but you've shown me like you're here, you're listening, and you're sticking close. And that was all I needed in that time. And it's really inspired me since, um, especially in John chapter 16. It talks about in the world you have trouble, but take heart and have peace because I have overcome the world. Overcome the world. Jesus has overcome the world. And the little phrase "take heart" was really encouraging to me, and I related to that verse in this time. Just because I never necessarily lost faith, but like I said, I just felt far. Always like I've always been very faithful and understanding that God's in control, um, but without walking around and having the confidence and showing that to others. I would be kind of discouraged. And that small phrase, take heart, uh, was really relatable for me because it shifted my focus and say, this isn't something I should kind of hide behind or not feel comfortable sharing with others. Because this is a story that God's not through with yet. And God has already defeated the enemy, which in this case is the enemy was clear. So I was really encouraged by that entire situation, and that's a small story. I was able to show that example of just encouragement in a really hard time of my Christian faith, and it turned like I said, it really turned my personal walk from more of a daily necessity rather than using God as a commodity for prayer. It turned into God without you, like I have nothing today. So that was really important for me.
So you said something about mental health. I want
Yeah.
to kind of raise a question about that. Do you feel like I kind of want to word this in the best way possible, but obviously you probably kind of can tell where I'm going with this question. But
Maybe
as far
is
as
it
mental,
theological?
it could be depending on how you answer it. But do you feel like mental health with Christians is a very big part of our faith? If that makes any sense.
A very big part.
Like, do you feel like our mental health can sometimes stray us away from our faith? If that makes any sense.
Hmm. I think the enemy can certainly use it as a spiritual battleground um, to stray you away. But I've always kind of thought that God and science are not separated. God is kind of the author of science. So he created us and created us in his image. He wants that to be used to glorify him. But Satan obviously can certainly turn that into a battleground. So yes and no, it can go both ways depending on, you have to be really firm in your foundation and who God says you are versus who the enemy and the world will tell you who you are.
No, absolutely. I completely agree. I feel like because I feel like a lot of people in our faith now, especially some maybe even in the student ministry that we've been pouring into, feel like I know we all know that there's a lot of spiritual warfare going on with these students, whether they believe or whether they don't. We've seen it in the camps that we've been in the past almost 2 months, and all the different at SOU and all these different things and opportunities we've had to talk to these kids. A lot of them are struggling with things that we personally struggle with. I just feel like, as far as it goes, do you feel like in the Bible, like, do you feel like there's one passage in the Bible through your time and your, I guess I'm trying to say, like, your battle with your mental health with your specific story? Like, do you feel like there was a passage that kind of helped lead you towards coming out of that on the brighter side?
I think it's the one I just shared. I think it's verse 33 in John 16. Um, it kind of shows all phases of like in the world you're going to have trouble. Okay, even as a Christian, you're going to have those times of anxiety. That in itself is not the sin, but when it takes you away from glorifying Christ and puts the focus on um, maybe everything that you're not versus what God tells you that you are, then that's becoming a sin. So it hits on the trouble in the world. It hits on who has overcome that trouble. Jesus has come and overtaken the evil. And then, like I said, the important part for me was just those two words: take heart. You know, not only should you have that faith and belief that Jesus overcome the world and overcome the trouble, but being joyful and glad in that was really important for me. So even so, just that small phrase "take heart" kind of shows me how much God cares about like how you walk around about your day. Not only does He want you to believe in Him, but you should have joy in that, not walk around upset at the circumstances.
No, absolutely. Now I know you're. I don't know if you're. Obviously, you know I'm a big music guy.
Yep.
So like for me, relating a lot of what I hear comes from music. So have you ever heard of the song "Take Courage"?
Take it by who? Well,
I don't know. I'm
the
trying to
title,
remember.
no.
I literally
Title.
heard it right before I came up here, which is actually kind of cool because I was listening to it while I was fixing the sermon for Sunday,
Mm-hmm.
and I heard it and it said, "Take courage, hold heart, stay steadfast, my soul, my soul, whoa, not soul. He's in the waiting." How do you feel? Do you feel like I want to word this right again too, but like, do you feel like music itself can be a healer when it comes to going through this kind of spiritual warfare?
Yeah, I think so. Um, it's also a really good way to memorize like prayers. So that's why I think Psalms is like my favorite book. It's the ability to relate worship and prayer all in one and memorize it um, is really beneficial. I'm sure there were a ton of songs I cling to then. I couldn't tell you what they are now, but absolutely, it was a time of like even, and it's a time to like be filled up in kind of different times. So obviously, late at night, it's a good time to late at night and early in the morning, good time to talk to the Lord and be in prayer. But it gives you an opportunity. Music gives you the opportunity to worship and pray in the car, or walking around campus with headphones in. So I think absolutely God loves our worship, and in return, it could also be used to lift us up.
Now, obviously, going off of the worship, like we've had a lot of during the summer so far, we've heard a few different bands at certain things, whether it was each week, Wild Week, Camp 45, or even just on Sundays here at church. Like,
Mm-hmm.
has there been? I'm trying to say not just straight up with worship, but like obviously with camps this year, we've had a lot of stories to go around. Like, is there one instance from camp this summer that you feel like God has kept on your heart? Like maybe it was a conversation with a kid, or an instance where you had one of the students literally just come up to you and ask to pray for you, or ask for them to pray for you, or for you to pray for them. Like, has there been a instance where you felt like God was really just like, here's something for you, kind of?
Um, I would say each week I was running around so much, I almost felt bad that I couldn't be in the room more. But Wild Week I was able to be in the room more, and I would just say that progression of day one, you're like introducing yourselves, trying to get to know each other. Then day two, talking basketball, and I felt like it was because of those day one and day two that by the third day we're able to have spiritual conversations in the room. It's like during free time. Don't tell them we had people in the room during free time, but they were changing for like the pool, the
They were
food, and
changing
everything.
they were getting ready to go on the
Yeah,
lake and all
yeah,
that.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, no, of course.
And during that time, um, we're able to have like those spiritual conversations, and you just saw them getting like deeper and deeper each day. Just going from talking their sports to some of their questions that they have about um, just living a Christian life. And that was really cool because I think it shows just like the importance of developing relationships. You know better than anyone. You can't just jump in here. Like it's probably now lately that you feel like you are making the biggest impact, and it's because earlier on you start building
They
that
had no clue
relationship.
who the heck I was.
Right. So that was just a cool like in a small 3 day span, seeing what ministry is, kind of meeting people where they're at, finding their interests, um, and then offering like your life experiences, really what you've learned to kind of help guide them.
I will say, especially being up here, obviously, I didn't know anybody coming up here. And I told Olivia this when we talked earlier. Like, you never know the impact you can have if you're not intentional.
Yeah.
Like,
I would also add, I haven't said this. A lot of my time during the week is actually spent at work at UT, in student life, and that's not always, going from this staff and these coworkers to like a non-Christian culture, or maybe around believe people that don't believe. Um, this work, like this summer and this spring semester, uh, has given me an opportunity to like mention some of the things that we're doing in the youth ministry, and it's very it's a very helpful tool because you're not like pushing it down anyone's throats. You're just saying this is what I'm doing at my church for these other people, and they find it really interesting, and then they start asking questions. So that's been cool for me too, especially as someone who may not pursue working in ministry long term, knowing that I'm called to ministry in my life, and whatever that looks like is could be in business or what in my family, whatever the case is. Really cool to apply that in another area outside the church building.
no, absolutely. Trying to remember what I was going to say. That's what it was. All right. Yeah. So obviously, I've asked this question to everybody because I always think it's kind of cool to see like everybody's got like this one part in the Bible that's just like stuck with them their entire life. And I want to say life verse, but I also want to tailor it to the fact that like I understand not everybody's got like one specific verse that's been with them their entire lives. There's maybe a few, maybe it's a passage like I asked you earlier,
Yeah,
but like do you feel like you have a verse that's kind of been with you, whether it was before you accepted Christ, whether it's been since you accepted Christ, but like, is there like a verse or passage or a couple of verses that you feel like God has kept on your heart and has helped you in your faith since you became a Christian?
yeah. It's funny we talked about this earlier, like Psalms and worship.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, Psalms 34 is a really cool chapter. O taste and see, the song. I won't sing it for you right now, but maybe
I mean,
after
if you
this.
want to, the mic's right
After
there.
this,
There's one
I'll
right behind you too.
after this I'll sing it for you. But we'll probably sing it Sunday too. I love that passage, and then also the story where actually the whole concept of Jesus calling his disciples, it was a bunch of misfits, and like they didn't get along necessarily, but they had to learn to grow together. And um, the example of uh, Jesus calling Simon Peter to be a disciple, he gets in his boat as someone who gets in his boat that he's been using to fish, as someone who's looked at as at that time, is this guy a prophet? He's a great teacher. He's certainly not. He doesn't look like a fisherman. But that just shows how Jesus meets us where we are, no matter how different we are from Him, um, to be called and used for His work. And that's really stuck with me. Just how God can use our different interests, and like we all have our different interests to meet different needs. So I actually have like a canvas photo in my room of that scene of Simon Peter being called in my room. So that's a story that's really stuck with me.
Well,
Oh,
that's
what
all.
about you? I haven't heard yours.
My what?
Do you have a story or a passage or a section or two
Well,
stuck with you?
I kind of like I like a few, but I'll mention one specific one that's kind of been my life verse for actually since I probably since I accepted Christ. Now that I think about it, but and it's funny enough because me and Aaron, when he was on this, actually talked about this verse, and it's kind of cool because it's kind of like full circle a little bit. But 2 Timothy 1:6 through 7, mainly 7, but it says, "For this reason, I urge you to fan into flame what is the gift of God, which has been given to you by the laying on of my hands or my works, depending on what version you're reading." But verse 7 for me has always been the biggest thing because it says, "For God did not give us a spirit of fear, but of power, love, and self control." And like for me, that's huge. Because, like, one, y'all know I don't have any self control whatsoever when it comes to being here on Sundays or being in camps. Like, you have to like literally constantly yell at me to get me to control myself and to understand what's going on and like the purpose here. But or at least you did at the beginning. But like as the years gone on, I've seen like how much of an impact I can have simply just by listening. And for me, it's huge because like I'm afraid that like if I don't talk, I'm not going to have an impact. But one thing I realized since I've been up here is like the more I listen, the more I take in, the more I take in, the more I learn that I can help with others more, you know? Because like all these kids, like they're willing. Sorry, it was thing was coming off. Oh, the mic. That's weird. But like all these kids go through. We talked about already. Like everybody goes through their own struggles. We're never gonna know until we ask and to pray for them and whatever like what they're going through. Like we're never gonna know until we ask. But like all these kids are going through so many different things. Every student that walks in here has their own burdens and all the things they're struggling with. And as us interns know, like we're some of the first people they will run to because they see us every Sunday. And like we have to understand like the point of intentionality is like we can't be afraid to talk because God did not give us a spirit of fear.
Mm-hmm.
He gave us a spirit of power and love and self-control. And like that love is being able to be used every week that we're up here because like you know it best. You've been here since January. Like you've gotten to make connections with these kids and relationships. Like they want to talk to you. They want to talk to us. Like they want to understand like, hey, we might not just be here. We might not be here all the time, but like we're here to listen now. And we want to be here. We want to be intentional. And like it's really cool to see because like my life verse has really been all out for on display since we've been up here. Like power, love, skill, control. Like we're put in a position of power because we're interns. We're working for the ministry, ish. But like we have, but not like in the sense of power, but like more just like
Position of opportunity.
opportunity, yeah. Responsibility. Bingo. But like we have that opportunity to be responsible of these students, and we have the opportunity like to speak to these kids and then fill. I don't want to say fill, but like I guess fill their hearts with worship in a way because like they see us worship and like I have a story. I'll share this with you. But like last year we had Brandon and Be Self. Shout out Epic Rescue. But they were at Wild Week with us last year when I worked at Broadmoor for the summer, and I was in the back worshiping. And I had my hands raised. I didn't think anything of it. And I go to worship the next morning. It was the last one of the latter nights of the week. And I get there that morning, and Brandon's like, "Hey, can I talk to you?" I was like, "Yeah, sure, why not?" And I said, "What's up?" He's like, "Man, I hope you know that you've been more of an impact on my son than you will ever know." And I was like, "What do you mean?" Did I smack him on accident and say I'm sorry? I don't remember. Alex, that was a crazy guy, and I still am. But he said,